WN. A night that is unlike any other night. I asked Barry Trotz at the end of the press conference after Monday's Game 4 victory that there aren't a whole lot of days where you get on an airplane and say we're going to go win one game and win a Stanley Cup, or wake up that morning or show up at the rink or have a pregame skate. All of that is in progress right now, and there to chronicle it as he does all things Washington sports, our pal at WTOP and out on Twitter at Dav Presto. We welcome one of our defending champions, Dave Preston, back. And dude, up here, they have adopted the Capitals because the baseball team stinks down there. You have a legitimate baseball team, and obviously the Redskins sort of own that place, but from what I've seen outside the rink, inside the rink, it has been very, very impressive what the Capitals have done with their brand, with this run, and in sort of capturing the hearts of fans in a lot of ways, right?
And I think a lot of it, Nestor, is the quality of ownership and the perspective of ownership. I think, yes, Ted Leonsis owns the Capitals, and yes, he owns the Wizards, but I think in many ways, he views himself as a steward of the team. Yes, he's going to be making money off of every overpriced beer and cup of nachos that you can get there. But since he has taken over both teams, he's really kind of tried to make this Washington's team. And it doesn't hurt the fact that they're located smack in downtown, where there's so many easy ways to get there if you take public transportation. Or if you drive in, as opposed to, say, the Redskins, who are located, way out in the heck of the middle, in Landover. I think he has adopted a fan-friendly approach. There's a lot of enthusiasm from the owner's box. Could you imagine Dan Snyder wearing a Redskins jersey in his owner's box? No, because that's not who he is. That's not his personality. That's not what the NFL owners do. But Ted has really embraced that, and Mr. Leonsis has put together a great product over the last dozen years, and finally they're reaping some of the benefits of getting it done in the postseason. One more to play. You got to win 16 to get a cup nowadays, and it's not over yet, but all eyes on Vegas Thursday, especially from D.C.
Well, I don't sense any of that dread that we've had in the past, and I know T.J. Oshie addressed that after the game, as did head coach Barry Trotz, and sort of the significance of all of this and being on the edge. I mean, it would be very Capitals to blow a 3-1 lead in the Stanley Cup Finals in the end, to play the old, putting the football out there for you like in the Peanuts strip, but I don't feel that way about this team. I haven't felt that way about this team from the beginning. I've been cautiously optimistic. And I talked to Tom Boswell at length on the way into the locker room on Monday night about the Orioles back in the late 70s and early 80s, that it took them to 83 when they were probably good enough to win in 78, 79, 80, 81. And all of those disappointments ratchet up. And I think that is the same story of Peyton Manning's career, or John Elway, or, lots of people. It takes that period of time. And certainly Ovechkin stands at the top of all of this, but this is quite a cast of characters. And I know you're in that locker room even more than I am. I'm really struck by the integrity of all of this and the kind of people that are in that locker room right now.
And it really does, in hockey, more so than any other sport, it really does take a village in order to win in the regular season, to contend and to eventually win a Stanley Cup. You look at all the other sports, LeBron James can play 48 minutes as long as he stays healthy. Tom Brady can take every single snap, from an offensive standpoint. Max Scherzer, if he's going, can, toss, 120 pitches, a complete game. But with the exception of Braden Holtby, every player has to leave the ice after being on the ice for about a minute. And so it takes depth, and that's what this team has put together. It takes not just one guy who's good, but three guys who are really great together on a line. And I think that when you've seen what Barry Trotz has done as head coach the last couple of years, one in breaking up the tandem of Backstrom and Ovechkin, who were great together, but in the long term and in this playoff run have been better apart. Putting a Tom Wilson guy on that top line when he was kind of a thug for the first 2 years, and allowing him to grow up and mature and realize his capabilities. Yes, he's a tough guy. Yes, he's going to get penalties. Yes, if there's a fight, and I'm, putting money down on which Capital is involved, it's going to be on Tom Wilson, then Tom Wilson, and then maybe Tom Wilson again. But he's shown, he scored a goal in Monday night's Game 4. He's showed a lot of skill, and he's been the perfect piece when you've got Kuznetsov and Oshie. He's that grinder guy that you need to make that unit work. And I think, and it all starts in that dressing room. You've been in that dressing room. That's not a huge place. The Wizards, for having 15 guys, their locker room is, I almost want to say, twice the size of the Capitals dressing room. And granted, the Caps equipment isn't in that room, but it's tiny trying to go around there and get interviews. It has to be tiny if you go there every day for 7 or 8 months as a player. You have to have even if you're not necessarily best friends with the other guys on your line, in your defensive pair, on the roster, you have to have a certain amount of camaraderie, and this Caps team has exactly that.
Can you put into some sort of perspective the Ovechkin journey and the ride? Because you're even closer to it. Look, I don't take outrage phone calls from Caps fans up here, bitching about him being fat, overweight, in the bar at 2 a.m., overpaid, underpaid, not a great leader, all of that, that's been associated with him, not just here, but in the Canadian press and the anti-Russian and the anti-Eastern European thing that, appears, in itself in hockey, and the people that have rooted against him. I mean, I know I'm a guy that's rooted against LeBron James all these years since the decision, that at some point it mellows a little bit, and where he is in the amount of respect you have to have for him as a hockey player who has $100 million in the bank and no ring and no name on the cup and all of these decorations. He's going to the Hall of Fame and all of that, but this is the missing ingredient. And for him to have at some point last summer found this fountain of youth, the health, the body, the losing of the weight, the strengthening of the body, the strengthening of the mind, the leadership, the smile, the camaraderie that he has with these guys, it's really been quite a transformation and a story unto itself, I think, especially if you've chronicled it from when he couldn't speak a word of English and he came over and was just trying to fit in.
Yeah, and I think too is that he came to North America to play a primarily Canadian sport, and it's
in the capital of the free world, by the way, as well.
Exactly,
right?
From Russia, which is no longer Soviet Russia, but there's memories die hard, and when you saw he and Sidney Crosby together, you almost felt like there's this huge Russian and this tiny, spunky guy that we called the Kid. It was almost like watching Rocky IV all over again, minus Paulie and that robot with, really, why do they need to get Paulie a robot?
Dave, I hate to tell you this, but I still haven't seen Rocky IV, but that's...
Okay, you're not missing anything.
I stopped at 3. After 3... That was good for me, Clubber Lang and Hulk. That was good. I was done after that. At that point in the franchise.
You know what? You're in a good place because there are things that I saw in Rocky IV and Rocky V that unfortunately I can't unsee from a plot, standpoint. And I'm not going to tell you what happens to Apollo. That it just a part of me died that night. But I think
I cried when he died, and I never saw the movie.
Yeah, and it really, and how we never got Drago Lang, I would have loved to have seen
I must break
Dolph Lundgren go up against Mr. T in a future sequel. We never got that fight. That's the fight we always wanted but never got. I think Ovechkin, and again, as he comes to town, and it takes him a while to find the right coach. And for a while, they were the high-flying guys who just scored and really. It was the Boudreaux Capitals were freewheeling, and they would have revolutionized the game had they only won that series against Montreal and advanced 2 or 3 rounds. Didn't happen, and it seemed like, well, what's wrong with this team? And everybody points at the guy who makes the most money and who has the great stats but can't really produce in the postseason, even though he did have a great series against Pittsburgh in 2009. Things just didn't seem to happen, and a lot of it was the guys they had on the team at the time who were good regular season fits but lousy postseason fits. Mike Green was a very good offensive defenseman, but at the end of the day, he was basically a guy who wanted to play right wing, who like a frustrated winger who had to play D, and that's one of the reasons why, unfortunately, he's no longer in town. It took a change of the guard at the general manager position too. McClellan in for George McPhee, who you take a look at what McPhee's done. He built Vegas in less than a year. He built the Capitals over 2 decades. He deserves a lot of credit for this. But I think Ovechkin, being a veteran, having those gray streaks in his hair, knowing that his ice time is dwindling. Who knows how many more years he has? Maybe 3, 4 years, maybe 1 or 2 great years. You never know when the guy in hockey, as in the case of most sports, you don't know when the great players have that last great season. A lot of guys hang on for some subpar seasons or even some decent ones, but for all we know, this season where Ovechkin led the league in goals, the first guy in his 30s, I believe, to lead the league in goals since Phil Esposito back in the 70s, when they had 2-minute shifts and guys were smoking lung darts in between periods, and you had the California Golden Seals moving to Cleveland to be called the Barons. It was a different NHL at the time. And in today's game, where there are 40 to 50 second shifts, where there's speed is at such a premium, and where age, gosh, if you're just a year or two too old to be able to hang on a top line, you get bumped, and and in today is also such a completely different game defensively too than it was even, say, 20 years ago when guys were putting up 100-point seasons with regularity. That's so not the case now. For Ovechkin to still be playing this well, this late into his career, and to be able to get this kind of cup run where, I'm going to say this, Evgeny Kuznetsov has been the best player in the postseason for this team, but Ovechkin is the reason why he has been able to is because he's on the same line as Alex Ovechkin. And Ovechkin has helped nurture him. Ovechkin has helped Kuznetsov to really, I think, I think 10 years from now, we're going to look back into this season as Kuznetsov's coming out party.
Dave Preston is our guest. He is Dav Presto out on Twitter and, of course, at WTOP, anchoring all their coverage down there. And, I mean, even Scherzer and Zimmerman are running around. Buck Showalter's up here, and Chris Davis is making all-caps videos. And meanwhile, your boy Bryce Harper is sitting there very, very lonely up in the skybox, counting his money in his Vegas Golden Knights gear. I was out in Vegas, and he was part of their scoreboard. Go Knights, go, and all that stuff. We'll see him on Thursday night. Lonely times for him, right? I mean, in the nation's capital. This isn't going to reflect well upon him, I don't think, right?
Well, I mean, the thing is that he's a Vegas kid, so it's not as though he's like, I had a friend who he still is, Alabama football fan, North Carolina basketball fan, Steelers fan, Braves
Dude,
fan.
Adam Jones could not be out in a Tom Brady jersey and rooting against Joe Flacco. That wouldn't be cool. I mean, it wouldn't even be cool if it was like a Chargers jersey. It just wouldn't be cool.
And the thing is, I give Bryce a pass because he's from Vegas. And this is the first team he has ever had, the first major league team that he has ever had to root for. And he's still kind of a kid. He's not 30 yet, so it's, you say, hey, grown men can't wear, there's that person who says, grown people can't wear jerseys. Well, Bryce is still a kid. This is his first team.
I'm just saying, it's not good optics. It's not good optics. I mean,
no, and hey,
Scherzer and Zimmerman are bailing him out.
I'm deep into my 40s, and I still have an Ernie Davis jersey that I trot out there from time to time. But I don't wear the Derek Coleman jersey because, like, Coleman
why would you?
Ate his way out of the league. I kind of ate my way out of the Syracuse jersey, as fate would have it. I bought a medium when I was 19. No longer a medium.
My high school jacket still fits me, and I'm one of the few, so I brag about that part. So, yes.
Excited that Bryce is excited about his hometown team, and that's cute. Really excited how a guy like Max Scherzer has bought in to the Caps, and you get a chance to kind of glance and see what he does. Last week he struck out 12 at Camden Yards, and in his best part of the night was he was like, "Hey, I got to watch the Caps game because I didn't have to hit for myself."
You're welcome for that. The Orioles, thank you for your patronage there on that.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. But then over the weekend, Scherzer comes on as a pinch hitter in extra innings, huge hit, and then scores the game-winning run. And now he embraces the way that he's really embraced the Caps too has been fantastic. Zimmerman obviously a little quieter. It's a shame they didn't get Sean Doolittle out there to be like that. What the Coneheads, the three guys, the ultimate line of crazies where Scherzer's the center and Zimmerman's the finesse guy and Sean Doolittle's just that loon that you don't want to mess with in any way, shape, or form. But it's great to see the city embracing this run. You saw Monday and you saw last Saturday how just the crowds around the portrait gallery to see the various artists, to hang out and to have
Dave,
that
I didn't just see that, by the way. I went down with my wife Saturday for Sting and Shaggy.
Right.
I walked out of the building for the second period and watched the second period with my wife out in the street. We scored a couple of goals. Ed Frankovic and Ted Starkey told me to stay out on the street when I came back in the third period. And then my son watched that on Monday night and said that it was one of the most spectacular things he's ever done. And he was in New Orleans when the Ravens won. He loves sports and all that. He said it was an incredible thing to be a part of. I would think on Thursday night they might not have enough room down there, man.
And I think it's one of the things that makes sports so special. Yes, you and I cover this, all these games and these leagues, and there's a lot of idiocy. There's a lot of intrusive politics here and there. There's a lot of shenanigans. There's a lot of people. There's a lot of people who aren't ideal to deal with at certain times. Sometimes, like the Monday night, the dressing room was an absolute mosh pit, and it was tough to get a mic in edgewise. But this is what makes the game's awesome, because you see a whole community and it's people sharing experiences with each other, people enjoying not just the destination but the journey. And this has been quite a journey this year. Again, down 0-2 to Columbus. I think they went to overtime in Game 3 against the Blue Jackets. So the hockey gods, they could have very well been down 0-3 in that first series with the Game 4 out there. And to see this ride get to where it is and to have 60 more minutes of hockey where Coach Barry Trotz Monday night said these guys haven't played their best game. I think Oshie said, we can get better. To have the opportunity for the players to say, you know what, we've got 60 more minutes where we can elevate ourselves even more, that's fantastic. To have one more evening at least where the Washington community, the D.C. community that stretches all the way down to Richmond in reality and all the way up to Baltimore for hockey, because this is the region's NHL team.
By the way, and a lot of folks have reached to me north of the border up in York, Pennsylvania, and said it reaches all the way to Harrisburg because of the Hershey connection. Hershey has a real connection to Carlson and to Beagle, who won a championship there, and Hopi, who played there. So all of that's it's even larger than that. It goes 90 miles north of Baltimore, maybe deeper than that.
Yeah, and to have that, it's for there not to be a Washington D.C. champion since the early 90s, to not have had, and I put football as an outlier because it is 16 games a year. Baseball's 162. The NBA and NHL are 82 game seasons, where it is a day-to-day process of following your teams during the season where you get rewarded as a fan. And I think you can check out maybe sometimes easier, for, just once, every 7 days. But for the fans to really be able to get into this process where, what's kind of odd is that the Washington Bullets won their lone NBA championship 40 years ago this Thursday.
Wow, so I did not know that. I remember that night very, very well.
That would be something special, and they won on the road. So that would be a nice twist. And it's just, granted, they still got to win. They still have to play very well. This team has played very well. I think looking at the series so far, Nestor, it's one thing that if you're the better team, it's another thing if you're playing well, and it's another thing entirely if you're getting the bounces. The Caps, have been the better team. They've played better, and with a few exceptions, they've gotten the better bounces. So, one has their fingers crossed. One is more than cautiously optimistic or optimistically cautious. I don't know the exact semantics, but one feels really good. One feels really good to be in this place, and this is what fans in this area. This is why they love sports. This is why we love to cover sports. This is why this is such a wonderful place to be.
Dave Preston, he covers all things sports for WTOP. He's Dav Presto out on Twitter. That's DAVPRESTO, sort of like the Rush album was. And they're going to get this done, right? I mean, I can't imagine a scenario, and of course they have blown 3-1 leads, but I just don't think that's in the character of this group of guys. I don't know that they'll get it done on Thursday night. I certainly hope so. I don't need that nervous energy of a 3-2 game on Sunday night where the first puck goes in the back of the net 3 minutes into the game by some hooker crook, and it almost happened in Game 4 several times in the first couple minutes of the game with the fast start that Vegas usually gets. I don't need all that pressure in my life, and I don't think TJ Oshie needs that either. I don't think he needs another subway ride to the arena. Let's get this done on Thursday night, Dave.
I hope they get it done as well, sir.
Dave Preston can be found at WTOP.com, where they cover all things. Did a good job covering lacrosse for Maryland the last couple of weeks as well. You can find him at Dav Presto. No one loves college basketball more than Dave as well, so he is a frequent visitor around here that time of the year. I'll be getting some more DC media on, some more NHL media on. We are getting you ready for Game 5 of the Stanley Cup Finals in Las Vegas. The Washington Capitals board a plane to go to Las Vegas with a chance to hoist Lord Stanley's chalice into the sky over the desert on Thursday night. I will be on the scene there. Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram. We stream live on our Facebook as well as our YouTube WNSTV channel. I might even step it up a little bit from Vegas because we got a lot going on. You can find me out in the Toyota.com audio vault 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world on your mobile device by downloading the TuneIn radio app. We do come in crystal clear from anywhere in the world. It's live, it's local, it's easy, it's hockey, it's a little bit of baseball, a lot of football in there as well. It is the Toyota.com audio vault. Our morning newspaper ships directly to your email inbox each and every morning at 7 a.m. It's all brought to you by Planet Fitness and PlanetFitness.com, where it's still $10 a month to get in the best shape of your life, guaranteed. And our morning newspaper also has the Laurel entries for the weekend. The Maryland Jockey Club, one of our proud supporters as well. Backside of the Preakness is the Belmont, and they're going to run a Triple Crown race on Saturday in Elmont, New York. Good luck to Bob Baffert, who has become a friend over the years as well with Justify, and we'll be watching that as well on Saturday. No bus trip. There was not enough interest, sadly, but my hands are a little full this week, I think, with the Stanley Cup Finals. We'll be out in Vegas all week long. Fun, fun, fun. We are WNST.net, AM 1570 at WNST Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Stanley Cup hockey and Baltimore sports.